today I'm going to talk about on the basic non-destructive testing. The what we plan to cover today is the definition of non-destructive testing, some of the philosophies on why it is helpful and is in a major pitfalls, and then basic theory, then explanation of the common techniques we are using for the entity, then demonstrations of the common analysis techniques. Non-destructive testing entity, if we say that, also known as the non-destructive examination, also NDE, also involves the inspection and analysis of the machinery or the component without affecting the operation or the properties of the object, as opposed to the tensile test or other destructive testing such as sectioning and all. अब हम इसमें क्या बात करते हैं कि that what when we are going to do this non-destructive testing, that we don't want to disturb the structure or the element or the subject on which we are going to perform this test, that when we disturb or take a disturbed sample or we do the core cutting techniques or some hammering and some other things, then what will happen, the basic structure or the elements may get disturbed, the strength may get disturbed, as we talked about. अब हम बात करते हैं कि जैसे कि हम इवैल्यूएशन पर्पस के लिए जाते हैं, तो वी हैव सम सर्टेन ओल्ड बिल्डिंग और अ पब्लिक बिल्डिंग। उस केस में अगर हम उसको परफॉर्म करने के लिए जाएंगे, तो वहां पे अगर हम कोर कटिंग वगैरह परफॉर्म करते हैं, तो इट विल टेक अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम आल्सो एंड इट विल destroy the existing strength also. Sometimes we perform this test to analyze the strength of a heritage building also, for the valuation purpose as well as for the rehabilitation of the structure also, being a civil engineer, or to strengthen the existing building also. That sometimes we have to give the safety certificates. Nowadays it is being asked by the authorities that what is the safety of a structure you are evaluating. No doubt we are evaluating the structure or the say a member or a machinery depending upon its present condition, whether they have maintained or not maintained, or it is running good or not running good, it is being in used or not, and what is the time of purchase, how much time it is being over after the commencement or the occupation of the building or the plant or machinery. From the ASTM websites, if I say the American Society for the non-destructive testing, what is the non-destructive testing is, the non-destructive testing has been defined as those test method used to examine an object, material, or a system without impairing its future usefulness. So benefit of this type of testing is also that we are not at all stopping the operation of the member or a structure. We are not disturbing, we are not taking anything from that out, so that the which can be further not to in utilize mode, or in the future it may affect its performance as well. The British views BI and NDT says that non-destructive testing is the branch of engineering concerned with the all methods of detecting and evaluating flaws in the material. So with the NDT, we can also find out the residual strength, as well as if any at all flaws inside the section. When we talk about any machinery or a let's say a member, or let's say a vessel also, in which we are storing something, or a structure also, like we have the piers of a bridge. अब उसकी अगर हमें स्ट्रेंथ चेक करनी है, या उसकी हमें एग्जिस्टिंग उसका अंदर जो हमारा रीइंफोर्समेंट बार्स हैं, हमें उनको चेक करना है कि whether they have been corroded or not. They are providing the actual placements at there they should be or not. In the later on stages, sometimes this can also be used. All are the different methods we are adopting while we are performing the NDT. The essential features of NDT is that the test process itself produces no deleterious effects on the materials or the structure under the test. The subject of NDT has no clearly defined boundaries. it can sometimes we perform with some certain instruments also, but sometimes we'll just have a visual look inspection also. A brief history, if we talk about the formal ND, dates back to the early railroad days when a mixture of the oil and the talc were used to detect the cracking in the axles and wheels. This is we are talking about the railways, sorry, rail lines and railways. They are being used to detect the flaws in the rails and the other members in that sense. Then the science has developed a wide range of tools and abilities for the non-invasively detect problems before they become disasters. So this is similar as if we are using any welded section or a member which is being joined together with the help of a welding or riveting or maybe a pressure weld also, or we have the structure of high grade strength or a composite story or composite structure as well, in which we have the core is the I section or the girders, and it's being covered with the help of a shotcreting or the concreting covers, in which we will find out the different types of flaws. We will talk about what is the difference between flaw and defect also. We all as an engineer knows that this anything will start with G G Bansal ji.
Hey, Rajat, can I interfere for a second?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Friends, why we are taking this class, NDT? It is not only important for land and building engineers, civil engineers and architects, but it is also important for plant and machinery engineers also. Because recently, State Bank and PNB have introduced a new valuation format for submitting the valuation reports. And in that, there is a separate section which is discussing about the strength of the structure and the strength of the material and the strength of the machinery. For that, आप normally हम लोग क्या करते हैं वहां पर लिख देते हैं okay done NA whatever it is, लेकिन it may prove to be dangerous in future अगर कभी कोई वो litigation में चला जाता है या कहीं कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है, तो एटलीस्ट हमें नॉलेज होना चाहिए कि इन केस अगर हम उसको टेक्निकली करते हैं, अगर छोटी मोटी बिल्डिंग है तो चल जाता है, लेकिन अगर हैवी स्ट्रक्चर है, बड़ा स्ट्रक्चर है, मॉल है या फिर कोई मॉन्यूमेंटल या फिर कोई हिस्टोरिकल बिल्डिंग है या फिर कोई ऐसी मशीनरी है जिसके लिए बहुत हैवी प्राइस पे करनी पड़ सकती है लेकिन उसमें कोई स्ट्रक्चरल डिफेक्ट है, तो हाउ वी कैन जज विदाउट डिस्टर्बिंग द बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर एंड विदाउट अफेक्टिंग इट, एंड समटाइम्स ओनर हमें अलाउ भी नहीं करेगा कि आप इसको तोड़फोड़ करें, या कभी आप देखिए बैंकिंग सेक्टर में आपको करेंसी चेस्ट या उनके लॉकर कैबिनेट्स या स्ट्रॉन्ग रूम के आपको रेगुलर सर्टिफिकेट देने पड़ते हैं, या फिर उनके जो स्पेशल रूम्स होते हैं आपको रेगुलर उनके सर्टिफिकेट, स्टेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेट देने पड़ते हैं, उस टाइम वो कभी भी अलाउ नहीं करेंगे, ना ही इट इज रिकमेंडेड कि आप उसको छेड़ें या स्ट्रक्चर को डिस्टर्ब करें। तो हर साल अगर टेस्ट करेंगे तो अल्टीमेटली स्ट्रक्चर पूरा खराब होना शुरू हो जाएगा। विदाउट डिस्टर्बिंग द बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर हम उसको कैसे सर्टिफाई कर सकते हैं, कैसे अपने आप को सेटिस्फाई करेंगे और कैसे उसको रिपोर्ट में इनकॉर्पोरेट करेंगे, दैट इज द बेसिक पर्पस ऑफ दिस क्लास। और साथ साथ में ये मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर्स के लिए भी जरूरी है क्योंकि कुछ मशीन्स हैं जिसका हमें एनडीटी टेस्ट करना जरूरी हो जाता है विदाउट डिस्टर्बिंग द या विदाउट ओपनिंग द बेसिक कंपोनेंट ऑफ द मशीन। Without wasting much time, I would like to request, sir, please continue. Sorry to interfere, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your sharing the information and the basic requirement of the purpose what we are serving for the day. Thank you. So we were talking about since the science has been developed, the range of the tools and abilities of non-invasively detected problems, therefore they becomes disasters. So अभी हम यही बात कर रहे थे कि when we are going to analyze the performance of a स्ट्रक्चर और मशीनरी ऑल्सो। स्ट्रक्चर की अगर मैं बात करूं तो मेरे पास जो पब्लिक बिल्डिंग स्ट्रक्चर्स या पब्लिक बिल्डिंग या हैवी स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं उसमें मेरी पब्लिक बिल्डिंग्स आती हैं, ब्रिजेस आते हैं। देन उसमें हम क्या चेक करते हैं कि मेरे जो पियर्स और गर्डर्स हैं, द थिंग्स विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द रूट इटसेल्फ, फ्रॉम द इनसाइड द स्ट्रक्चर मेंबर इटसेल्फ। It will start from a hairline or minor crack, which will develop on the surface or maybe from the inside the section itself, which should be detected before it becomes a severe problem. This flaws or this defect can occur in the machinery itself also. Machinery के कुछ parts हम तो open करके उनको check कर सकते हैं, but the wall of any shell or let's say the wall of any cylinder in which piston is moving, if the flaws occurs in between that wall or somewhere in that, the person who are dealing with the mechanical engineering or a civil engineering, we used to get a steel structure plates and then this rolled section. When we used to perform the cutting with the gas cutter, there will be a small air pockets used to be detected. That is the basic difference when we are purchasing from a local brand and we are purchasing a material from a branded company, like if you say the Tata, Sale, and likewise the probability of these defects and flaws are very much lesser as compared to we are purchasing or we are fabricating some local branded materials of a high strength machinery or where the high pressure or high temperatures are being concerned. So going back to the what AST and website, these are the common entity techniques we are using: the caustic emission liquid, then the penetrant ultrasonic, then testing vibration analysis. Also common are the infrared thermography, and the other side we have for the fluids like eddy currents, magnetic particle, visual inspection, then radiography, X-ray, then hardness testing. So these are the common NDT techniques in which we use to perform on the surface of the material or a subject or a object in which we want to find out the strength or existing strength or any defect or a flaw present in that. We will talk slowly by all these one by one. Your personal entity, when we talk about when you go to the market, you select fruit or a veggies, what do? How do you make your choice? So the we are here talking about the visual inspection. We all are doing all with this way or that way. Very simple example here we have given that when we are going to purchase a vegetable or let's say a shirt or a pen or any other device, what we'll go and see, हम उसको सरफेस पे उसको टच करके देखते हैं, हाथ में उठा के देखते हैं, फिर उस पे देखते हैं कोई उस पे बैंड डिफेक्ट या उसकी अलाइनमेंट, कुछ उसमें बटन्स ठीक तरह शर्ट के बारे में है तो देखते हैं। अगर हम फ्रूट्स वगैरह लेने जाते हैं तो उसमें भी हम क्या करते हैं कि हमारी जो रिक्वायरमेंट है, अगर मेरे को सेम डे कंज्यूम करना है तो आई पिक दी fresh vegetables and fruits if I am going to consume for a 2-3 days. So I want to have a backup of those things. Few of them I will select for the fresh and few of them I will select in the a little bit in the raw form so that they can be ripened after 1 or 2 or 3 days so that when I will consume they will get ready. So this is some of the examples or the techniques and methods we are already using in our daily life. Just we have to recall on the place where we want to recall these things, where we want to implement these techniques. So these things can be done in case of a structure also. आप एक structure को inspect करने जाते हो, सबसे पहले आप उसकी condition देखते हो कि all the walls or columns or beams are in a aligned way. They are being casted in a aligned way. Then we'll use to see that all the things are well maintained. Cleanliness is there, walls are proper painted. Then the second when we look for nearer to the washrooms and all where the water is there, we look for the dampness, seepage. If that is there, it means the strength has gone. So these are the visual inspection we used to do. Like the second phase, if your car is making a new strange noise, what do we do? वहां पे हम विजुअल कर रहे थे, यहाँ पे ऑडियो है, हमारी गाड़ी में से चलाते हुए या व्हीकल को चलाते हुए हमें कोई unknowing sound या which is strange sound we are listening, then immediately we'll stop and check from where it is coming or we'll use to focus on that. So these things happen with the machinery also. For a regular running machinery, the noise will be different for a machinery running with any problem. Problem may be a very simple that you haven't done the lubrication properly from the last few days or the last few months. It is making noise, which will be later on create may create a problem in your machinery also. Do you ever glance your car tires to see if they are soft? Similarly, we used to do, but sometimes we do some intentionally things also कि हम उसको properly maintain करने के लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए. In the winters, we'll keep our air pressure different. In the summers, we'll keep our air pressure with the different ways. So these are some of the activities also we can presume. These things can be discussed with the owner also or the user of the buildings also or user of the machinery from the supervisors. हम उनसे discussion point of view से भी feedback ले सकते हैं. Journal points हम कैसे करते हैं कि हमने मशीनरी देखी, बहुत अच्छी बात है, उस टाइम पे वो बहुत अच्छी चल रही थी, बातों बातों में हम उसके सुपरवाइजर या ऑपरेटर से डिस्कस कर सकते हैं कि आप इसको मेंटेनेंस इसकी करते हो. Some very good companies used to keep their maintenance or this calibration certificates based on the machinery itself. We used to have. Nowadays our buildings are also being rated. ECBC code says then they are going to provide the ratings also on the buildings, wo certification. These are the plus points or the additional things or the additional features we can look after. All these are the part of your inspection. Or how do we can check regular maintenance is there, appropriate techniques are being used, then the load on the building is not exceeding from its limit also. So these things we'll keep in our mind and we'll do. Now the goal is that look at it without causing a damaging interruption. Use the test information to form a plan. Now अब हमने हमारा जो फर्स्ट था कि हमें अपने ऑब्जेक्ट को या सब्जेक्ट को डिस्टर्ब नहीं करना है, उसमें से कोई भी पीस ऑफ member we should not take it out, we will not interrupt the operations even. So that is our first purpose. Then without causing or damaging the structure, अगर हम उसमें से कुछ निकाल लेते हैं so it will cause a damage और हम मशीनरी में से भी until unless it is being major problem and we need to have and we take it out, otherwise we will prefer to not to take all these things from the section or from the member itself. The second is use the test information to form a plan. That plan can be what is the next course of action or what is the purpose of that information where we want to use. As the sir says that now we have a clause that what is the residual strength, what is the actual condition, what will be the performance, can be or it is being asked in the valuation report or in the maintenance section also, as far as a engineer if we are in charge for a particular operation or a section. So this is one example we can quote. The goal of the entity is to analyze a piece of a material without damaging its performance capabilities and then use the information to predict the future performance. Here we have a graph below shown the leakage in the roof of a process vessel. Replacing the vessel will cost you about 50 lakhs and take it about a year. So the number of leaks when we say that, so this graph shows that कि हमें कब तक कहां तक और क्या लेके जाना है. The year from the vessel installation is 0, 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20 and the roof leaks versus the inspection dates. हमें वहां पर कितनी देर में हमारी ऑपरेशनिंग है उसके साथ हमने this graph can be maintained for the operation purpose also. This graph can be maintained for the valuation purpose also. When we are going to ask the billing part of any this machinery or any the construction date, so we can ask for the routine maintenance inspection reports also, which will help you to support your valuation where and how you can quote your value for that particular member or a section. The very simple example, the building or the machinery which is being manufactured or casted 15 years back and it is not properly maintained will give you a less value as compared to a machinery which is being installed 20-25 years back and it is being well maintained on time. So as like in the vehicle itself says that 1 year or 10,000 kilometers, whatever comes earlier, you have to go for the service. So your vehicle is standing at your home and 1 year went, you have to go for the servicing. So that is a requirement. They have nominated that 1 month or 2 months can be plus minus if possibility is there, you are not there. Something can be done or it is in that case also. Even with the machinery, if the running hours are mentioned for that particular machine that this much of running hours after you have to do the calibration, you have to check the alignment, you have to do the lubrication. All the checklist chart is being prepared and then is being taken care of the maintenance engineer or the supervisor in charge, which can be maintaining all those records even with the buildings also or in the bridges also in the checklist all they used to prepare. We have the maintenance that is your routine maintenance and the annual maintenance also in which we used to go for, so which will help you to increase the output of the production or which will increase the shelf life or the life of the structure or an object. So these all things can be done. Now NDT we are using that for the purpose of the existing strength or any strengthening we need to require. Other ways we can perform the NDT to expand our building structure in the vertical or maybe horizontal also, or maybe used for putting up of a new machinery on the upper floors so that whether it will be taken care or can withstand or take care the loads we are providing on that, or what it can be. Similarly, because nowadays the cost of construction is not so less and it is a huge amount is being involved. Along with that, sometimes the amount is not a problem. The problem is that you have to shut down the plant for the expansion purpose. You have to remove the existing all the this members and all, then you have to start it from the zero itself. The other way out of nowadays we are doing this rehabilitation of the structures also, the re-strengthening of the members also, so that the existing structure can be used for the future. And what all parameters we have been selected. The goal to look at the without causing a damaging interruption. So not only can we look at the inside pieces, but we want to do without causing an interruption also. Then a question arises, do humans really commit that many errors? Up now here we were talking about कि हमने उसको करना कैसे है, हम करते कैसे हैं. देखने में हम एक विजुअल इंस्पेक्शन कर सकते हैं कि वो हमारी जो मेंबर है ऑब्जेक्ट है वो दिखने में क्या है या उसकी कंडीशन हम एक विजुअल इंस्पेक्शन से ले सकते हैं. देन वी हैव सर्टेन इंस्ट्रूमेंट वी विल डिस्कस in the later slides that how do what all are the different instruments can be used to check the test or the strength or to perform the test and to check the strength of the structure or a member. Human error expert says that the average person makes 6 significant errors per week. हम अपने काम में करते हुए जो भी that in which we are perfect, we used to say that the chances of the error are very less. Even then we'll make 6 significant errors per week, means 1 error a day. Now the possibility and the probability of occurring that error will depends upon the or will depend in the which case we are doing. Sometimes in the office itself this may happen, or sometimes in the field visit when we are going for a physical inspection may occur. How often do we human errors happen? From the chemical engineering magazine McGraw in New York says that the industry activities, the critical routine task 1 in 1000. This is just a random data वी हैव टेकन कि हमारे जो चांसेस ऑफ एरर हैं कि हमें गलती लग सकती है, वी आर नॉट सो परफेक्ट, दैट्स व्हाई वी यूज्ड टू हैव अ टीम विद अस, वी यूज्ड टू कंसल्ट विद द critical cases. For the exceptions, we always take a suggestions from our seniors, from our colleagues, so that this is what we, in the morning itself, we the person, one person was asking for from the other person that this job I'm going to do, can you suggest me which will be the best method and in which I'm performing. Sometimes we used to get a similar kind of results in our routine testing and visits, but in a particular visit we the visual things are looking same but the results are not same. So something may happen also. We were talking about कि building is well maintained, वो properly painted है, वहाँ पे मेरे पास कोई moisture नहीं है. So this will not be visible after the summer season. कि अगर बंदे ने freshly उसको maintain किया है, क्या किया है कि मई जून में मॉइस्चर 0 होता है, जून एंड में आपने उसको अच्छे से पेंट करवाया, आपका मॉइस्चर दिखाई नहीं देगा. सो दीज थिंग्स वी हैव टू टेकन केयर. ये प्लस माइनस, ये एरर्स और ये थोड़ी सी स्मार्टनेस हमें भी थोड़ा ध्यान में रखनी पड़ती हैं. दीज ऑल आर दी पार्ट्स ऑफ द entity. Entity is nothing only doing with some certain instruments. It's all about your observation as well. Information. Screen is visible. Excuse me.
Yes, screen is visible.
Okay.
कट रही है सर बीच में,
आवाज कट रही है.
कट रही है, पहले तो अच्छी आ रही थी. इंटरनेट इश्यू है सर शायद.
ये
नहीं आ रही अभी.
Is it clear now?
हाँ अभी आ रही है.
Okay.
अभी ठीक है सर.
The most important benefits of NDT are that it allows us to inspect material.
फिर कट रही है सर आवाज. स्लो है आपका, इंटरनेट प्रॉब्लम है.
जी.
वाईफाई स्लो है सर आपका.
There may be a signal interruption. I'm sorry for that.
कोई बात नहीं.
So the most important or the best benefits of this performing entity are it allows us to inspect material and machinery without introducing infant mortality and then without damaging the material. That is a plus point we have in the entity performance. The data shows that all humans make frequent errors. We tend not to recognize those errors. The benefit of entity is that it can find defective material equipment without damaging the piece and without the interruptions that increases the probability of human errors. Sometimes problem is not there, but if we perform some core cutting or we'll take it out the sample from the member or the subject, may disturb the structure or maybe structure of the element, leads to causing the damage also. हो सकता है कि हमारा मेंबर बिल्कुल ओके था, जब हमने उसमें से टेस्टिंग के लिए सैंपल निकाला तो उसकी वजह से हमने जो कोर कटिंग परफॉर्म की या हैमरिंग की या पीस ऑफ मेटल निकाला उसमें से, may leads to cause any defect in that. The common use for entity, the product and the material quality assurance examples run in the test on a new vehicle's cleanliness of steel. Then the component machine conditions evaluation example is inspection of a sky lift component or an elevator rope. Then predictive method can be the vibration analysis on motors and pumps, infrared inspection of the transformers. Infrared inspection of the transformers may be for an electrical engineer or a plant and machinery engineer, that we will detect the temperature raise. Infrared will give us the temperature of the machine which is supposed to be. We have seen some of the videos also. We used to see that some thermal testing is also performed on the engines which are run for a machine, that how much temperature it should raise while it is running. That infrared inspection is also there on the transformers when we are performing that. Basically it is to control the voltage. We are to stabilize the voltage we are going to flow in forward this lines. For the production engineers challenge, we have that we are asking technicians to conduct an inspection. They are not engineers, and by the definitions must have the criteria to inspect to, that is have to know what is considered a defect. Now here we are going to talk about some of the basic terminologies being said and used with their meanings, where we have to be very careful. As we used to say that, I say that think before you speak, and one, think before you talk about the words you are using to explain your explanations. So those things we have to be very careful sometimes. So before we ask for a specific entity, we have to know what to ask for. What is the difference between a flaw or a defect? Almost all the materials have a lot of flaws. When the flaw impacts the performance of the material, it becomes a defect. As like we have the ranges. जब हम अपनी कोई मेडिकल रिपोर्ट भी लेके आते हैं तो उसमें हमारे पास एक पर्टिकुलर एलिमेंट की उन्होंने वैल्यू दी होती है, उसने कोई आपका टेस्ट किया, साथ में उसकी रेंज दी होती है. फॉर एग्जांपल वी कैन टॉक अबाउट फॉर अ पीएच वैल्यू ऑफ अ वाटर, वी हैव अ रेंज for that. Basic, if we talk about, that is from 7 to 14, and acidic if we'll talk about from 1 to 7. Basic acidic both are there, but when we are talking about the drinking water must be ranging from 6.5 to 7.5. It is acceptable or can be done. For the acidic, we used to have the drink we are drinking is of acidic in nature, that the means minimum value we are getting for this Coca-Cola is 3 pH value. It shows or gives us a 3. So we are also using that to some. Here we want to explain that flaws may be many in a member or the place, but until unless it is going to produce any severe effect or the impact, it is defined it as a defect on that. The important terminology: defects and flaws. All parts have flaws of some magnitude, but the parts are not necessarily defective. The defective component is the one that will not perform as required for the necessary time. Then our defect is the deviation from what is allowable. हमें एक alignment को अगर check करना है, अगर उस alignment को in the vehicle or two-wheeler, if we talk about, they used to correct or tighten the chain by just aligning the back wheel of the two-wheeler. So what is there? That chain, if it is not tightened, even then it is performing well. May producing the sound with striking with the chain cover. But that is a flaw. That is not defect. Yes, it is continuously touching the cover, and from a particular side it is being worn off. there will be a hole. That is called the defect. We have to check for the alignment. We have to correct it for the alignment. This is a very simple example. All of us, we know that. This will, you must have seen in your bicycle also, the chain cover, if it is being not properly aligned. If it is producing only sound, that is okay. But so flaws is there, that is flaw. But if it is make a hole in that, that is called the defect. So this is just a small example we have discussed. So which can be further used in our valuation purpose when we are going to inspect any member or a building or a machinery. So before we ask for an entity, we have to know what is to ask for, and one of the significant challenges is to define what is considered it as a defect. So that's what we have discussed. In a precision machine part, a 0.04 flaw may be a defect, but in a large casting, it may be just a flaw. Right. This is the difference. That is the, we are the judge, or we are going to define it as whether it is a flaw or it is a defect, which will you will find when you are inspecting so many areas, when you are visiting so many places. You have to take care of all these things. Now, the next we will talk about the inspection should be done by a qualified and certified persons. We are talking about all these are things available. This is the common sense we have to take care, or this is the observation we have to done when we are visiting any building or inspecting any plant and a machinery place. Now, the who is the concerned person to make all those reports or to make all those judgments that the inspection should be done by a qualified and certified person only. Certification. A certified inspector is a person who has demonstrated their capabilities and met the legal requirement. Here we can say the competent person must be available to make all those decisions. Like you all are the competent persons to make the valuation reports. As you have qualified also, you have the experience also, you have done so many work in your field. So please don't risk your life or your reputation by having an inexperienced and uncertified inspector to do the work. As we used to say that nowadays IBBI is also making some certified persons which are being gone through a certain pipeline. They have done so many activities related to the valuation reports. They are working in that field. So the similarly, these all testing must be done by a certified person or a competent person. So the red line says that would you want to have a surgeon operated on you who practices once a year, or a one who has developed his skill by watching other people to do the job. So very simple example we have made over here. So when we are going to perform all these tests on the structure, so the competent or a certified person must be performing all these things. Some of the more common NDT methods can be, as we have seen the earlier also, we have acoustic emissions, then the liquid penetrants, ultrasonic testing, thermography, radiography, eddy currents, magnetic particle, visual inspection we have done very clearly, then the vibration analysis, then hardness testing. And in visual inspections, we said then an insurance that the person conducting the inspection can see and recognize the indications. We talked about the when we are entering to the building, we look after the proper painting and the surfaces. They are being well leveled, planed, and then there should not be any seepage marks on the walls and the floors and the roof bottoms itself. So that is the visual inspection. Acoustic emissions, we have one example. We are going to talk about the common applications we used to do in case of a pressure vessels, especially tank cars. then the fiberglass and the other composite tanks, long-term bridge structures monitoring also. This is example is being given here to start a select of the transducer. Start with the selection of transducers कि जिससे कि हमें उसमें से हमने signals capture करने हैं. They are being connected with the computer. Securely anchor the transducers to the vessel or a structure in precisely determined positions. Then the computer record the high frequency signals from the transducers. There is a high frequency signals are being passed on. If there is any interruption between a signal of any particular transducer, will indicates you that in this particular area we have a problem. You can see here in the B's, the point B, there's a red mark. It shows that there is a change in the frequency, or this transducer is giving you the different wavelength of the frequency because of there is something wrong in this particular area that is being furtherly precise detected by the exact location of the flaw or the defect in which we are concerned. We were talking about flaw and defect. No doubt defect is the flaws only, but if it is not having or producing any dangerous result or harmful effect, it will be a flaw. But we have to check it in certain cases where the high security, or let's say the importance factor is very high. So we have to tackle the problem at the level of flaw only. So this is one of the technique we have talked about. Now we will talk about the NDT for the civil engineers also, that the powerful techniques for evaluating existing concrete structures with regard to their strength and durability, apart from assessment and control of the quality of hardened concrete without or a partial damage to the concrete. Concrete is not loaded to a failure, therefore the strength inferred or estimated cannot be expected to yield absolute value of the strength. Here we will talk about. As we said that when we are hammering or core cutting, sample is being taken from the member. The member is having an existing strength, but when we are performing all those tests on that, may leads to reduce the strength of the member, or may leads to incur the cracks, which may later on the later ages may be expanded. So to avoid those things, we used to try to perform this NDT. It will not give us the exact strength, but it will give us the values up to 70 to 80% reliability. Maybe some cases it maybe goes up to 90% even. Again, that depends on the person who is performing in the instrument, which are calibrated and all the ideal conditions. Even if we are performing the core cutting and other techniques over there, we will not have the 100% results because we are performing in the field. So there is always a difference between the results we are getting in the laboratory and as we are performing in the field testing. उसमें हमेशा हमारे पास 5 से 10% की वेरिएशन रहती है और वो एक्सेप्टेबल भी होती है. It is mentioned in the codes. They give you the deviation if you are performing in the, or the samples are being casted in the laboratory or are taken from the field itself. The standard deviations are permitted that we are testing. हमारी अगर कोई कास्टिंग फील्ड में हो रखी है, मेरी अगर M35 की स्ट्रेंथ है और मैं उसको लेबोरेटरी में जाके चेक करता हूँ आफ्टर 28 days, so the 10% or maybe 5% deviation is acceptable. So my samples are not rejected at all. It must be acceptable. Depend upon the area or the application where we are using them. Normal condition I am talking about, not for the special cases. In general, we are talking about these things. We are also doing in our valuation also. 2-4-5% की हम उसमें प्लस माइनस कहने से कर लेते भी हैं खुद अपनी तरफ से भी. Sometimes it is not being asked, but for on own judgment और conditions और points से हम बात कर लेते हैं कि ये क्या होगा या इसका कैसे होगा. ये हम सब करते हैं, ये हम सबको पता है. Sometimes we do the favor also, but these all are the visual inspections only. That's what we are doing. So this is again, we are not interrupting them. Our main concern is without disturbing the source or the core, we have to come to conclusion that we are standing or what is the strength or the residual strength available with us, so that we can use that strength for the future or for the existing valuation of the structure or a member. Now the cost effectiveness, the destructive testing, huge cost initially has to put in for taking samples and then to be tested. NDT, it is a very easy and a simple process, and many tests can be performed on the concrete less than a single amount required for the sampling of concrete. कि हमें अगर उसमें से सैंपल निकालना ही नहीं है, अगर मेरे को डिस्ट्रक्टिव टेस्टिंग करनी है तो मेरे को कोर कटर सैंपलर लेके जाना पड़ेगा. उसके लिए मेरे को डायमंड बिट कटर चाहिए, फिर उसकी प्रॉपर अलाइनमेंट चाहिए, उसको करने वाला स्किल्ड पर्सन चाहिए जो कि इसकी प्रॉपरली उसको कटिंग निकाल सके. फिर मेरे को उस निकाले हुए प्लेस को प्रॉपरली वापस कंक्रीट करना है, उसकी प्रॉपर जॉइंटिंग का ध्यान रखना है. So these all destructive testing activities are involved when we are performing this. But in the NDT, we are not taking any sample out. We are just performing certain tests. We are going to talk about. So these are the deliverables of the NDT, then the elastic modulus, density, strength, cracks and voids determination. These all things can be analyzed or can be concluded with the NDT. Reinforcement location, then the quality of workmanship, surface hardness, surface absorption. So these all are things which are being done through NDT or can be analyzed by the NDT. How NDT investigations helps in the assessment. The first one, we are going to talk about the rebound hammer test to estimate the strength and hardness of the concrete in a cover region. IS 13311 part 2 explains all this. Then UPC, to measure the homogeneity, uniformity, compatibility, then presence of crack or void, thus representing durability of the concrete. IS 13311 part 1. Then core test to evaluate the situ compressive strength of the concrete. IS 516 and the ASTM 42/41. Then the corrosion assessment, cell penetration, ASTM 876-9 resistivity, and RCPT ASTM 1202 to know about the extent and the rate of ongoing corrosion activities. These are very much required when your building is at the seashore, which is very prone to high corrosion. It is seashore construction required all these things. आप कितनी भी हाई रेजिस्टिव या टाइप ऑफ सीमेंट यूज करके स्ट्रक्चर को कास्ट कर लें, आपको वहां पे कोरोजन की प्रॉब्लम आएगी ही आएगी, क्योंकि उसके वहां पे जो वाटर क्वालिटी है दैट रीचेस टू और प्रोन्स टू create that corrosion problem into your building. Yes, it may be there. The other things, they are providing more cover to the this reinforcement as compared to the other normal areas. So these are the problems. Here we are discussing some of the problems are area specific, कि वो आपको उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया में ही मिलेंगी, बाकी जगह पे उसकी प्रॉब्लम कम होगी. लेकिन दूसरी जगह पे हम बात कर सकते हैं कोरोसिटी या कोरोजन की, जहां पे हमें प्रॉब्लम ये आती है if we are storing some chemicals into a tank. that tank is being casted with the concrete or with maybe a metal casing also. ये दोनों के केस में हमारे पास प्रॉब्लम राइज होती है. अब मेटल केस के प्रॉब्लम, मेटल कास्टिंग है मेरे पास, मैंने मेटल के साथ, शीट मेटल के साथ अगर मैंने टैंक कास्ट किया है तो मेरे को उसको रेगुलरली 6 महीने 3 महीने बाद पेंट करना पड़ेगा. नहीं तो क्या होगा, उसकी जो लेयर है हर साल निकलती जाएगी, उसकी जो थिकनेस रिक्वायर्ड है that used to get out of it. For example, here I can say that we used to have this construction of a रेडियोथेरेपी. कैंसर ट्रीटमेंट के लिए हम रेडियोथेरेपी यूज करते हैं, तो उसकी जो रिक्वायरमेंट है एज पर द कोडल प्रोविजंस, it says that you should have the 6 mm lead thickness, 6 inches of iron metal, this metal thickness, or 6 feet thickness of high strength concrete. So these things you have to make it accordingly. They have used also wall, floor and roof. They are casting with the thickness of more than 6 feet so that their radiation should not go out. Then they cast their doors with the 6-inch thickness of the metal because it is going to be open for the patient. So that is the possibility over there. More than this is the minimum 6 inches of a metal. Then they fabricate their suits or the dresses, those who are inside the theater, operation theater or the radiotherapy where it is being provided, of 6 mm thick lead is being used into their suits. So all these are the basic things we are going to check for that. We are not going to, अब अगर मेरे को कोर कटर निकालना हो 6 फीट मोटी वॉल में से, which is just not possible. Other techniques are as like we are going to use the X-ray defectometers also, or the UPV test also. There I can have the fair analysis without disturbing that the member or a structure. This corrosion assessment we talked about, then the bar locator and the cover meter. Bar locator is that कि हमारे पास स्ट्रक्चर ड्राइंग्स आ गई, कास्टिंग हुई थी 10 साल पहले, ड्राइंग अवेलेबल है. हाउ डू आई विल श्योर दैट कि मैंने उस पे एनडीटी परफॉर्म किया, स्ट्रेंथ मेरे को मिल नहीं रही उतनी. तो टू क्रॉस चेक नंबर ऑफ बार्स, बार लोकेटर विल गिव अस द एग्जैक्ट डायमीटर एंड द प्लेसमेंट ऑफ द बार इनटू अ मेंबर. वो कहाँ पे कितने डायमीटर की बार अवेलेबल है. Then the last one is we have is carbonation, the evaluation extent of the carbonation for the strength and corrosion estimation. Carbonation से हम एक similar, it's again other version says that कि हम उसकी लाइफ एज में निकालते हैं कि रेजिडुअल कार्बन कितना है और कब का है. तो ये बहुत डिटेल में चला जाता है चीजें आगे. Now we will talk about the rebound hammer. The objective is to assess the quality of the concrete in relation to the standard requirements, to estimate the compressive strength of concrete with the help of suitable correlations between the rebound index and compressive strength. Sorry, excuse me. Then to delineate the regions of the poor quality and deteriorated concrete in a structure, and to assess the quality of one element of the concrete in relation to the other. So in this rebound hammer, we have certain tables and graph which will correlate the value of your rebound you are getting from a member and correspondingly strength we have. So this is a rebound hammer. You can see here we have some certain graduations or the reading value. Basically what it happens at the nib you will strike it on the surface, you want to get it analyzed, and you will get a rebound in the form of reading over here. You will get a value from 11 to maybe 50 or 60. Normally for the structure casted 15 to 20 years back, and if it is in a good condition, then it will give you the rebound of 28 to 38 value, which will give you the approximately strength of M22 to M28. So these values you will get. I have given you so many things are there. 15 से 20 साल पुराना स्ट्रक्चर है, वो वेल मेंटेन्ड है, उसके ऊपर आप अब वेल मेंटेन्ड है एट द टाइम ऑफ कास्टिंग, अगर में उसमें कोई दिक्कत थी तो वो हम अब तो नहीं उसको कुछ कर सकते. So you will get a value between 26 to 36, and that will give you the residual strength of approximately 22 to, let's say, 28 kilonewton per meter square. So these all values you have to calculate to correlate with this reading, and then with the graph and tables available with you with this rebound hammer. The factors affecting the test results is the type of cement, then the type of aggregate, then the surface condition and the moisture content of the concrete, then curing and the age of concrete, carbonation of the concrete surface also. And we all know that whenever we are going to perform any test, we need to clean the surface before, and there should not be any loose particles or the loose material on the surface we want to detect. It should be as neat and clean. A sandstone will also be provided with this instrument so that you can rub it or scratch it with that, so that it should be very smooth to get the fair results. And not only that, this is the rebound, the mechanism of the rebound hammer. You will find that this spring is going to be strike down, goes up and down. These are the different things we have. And a plus point of performing this rebound hammer is that you can find out the strength of the floor in which your rebound hammer will be in the vertical position, as like shown in here. You can find out the strength of a vertical member, wall ka. You can find the strength of the below roof, under the roof. उसमें कंडीशन डिफरेंट है, उसकी वैल्यूज डिफरेंट होंगी. यूज करने का तरीका वही है, लेकिन रिजल्ट्स कैलकुलेशन डिफरेंट होगा. You can find the strength of an inclined member also. If something is being inclined, you have to use that rebound hammer like this. That inclination, you have to be taken care accordingly. So I'm not saying you all are going to perform that, but the person who is performing, you all should know that what all things must be taken care when you are performing this test. If it is at incline, the readings will be, you will get the reading, no problem in that. But the calculation will be different for an inclined surface, for a vertical surface. Your rebound hammer must be perpendicular to the surface. Of the surface you are going to find the strength. If it is inclined, it must be perpendicular. If it is the roof, under the roof, it should be vertically downward. If it is on the, let's say, horizontal, then it should be vertical. It should be vertical or perpendicular. So these are the different positions we are going to talk about. Now the interpretation of the test results, when we are talking about the average rebound number more than 40 is very good hard layer, 30 to 40 good layer, then 20 to 30 fair, less than 20 poor concrete, then the 0 is the delaminated. ये हमारे पास लूज मटेरियल है, और या तो सरफेस प्रॉपरली आपस में अटैच नहीं है, या वो बिल्कुल लूज है, उसके नीचे उसकी कोई भी बॉन्ड स्ट्रेंथ नहीं. Now the UPV, we are going to talk about the ultrasonic pulse velocity. The objective is to assesses the uniformity and homogeneity of the concrete, to assess the quality of concrete in relation to standard requirements. As of we are all engineers over here, irrespective of mechanical, electrical, or mechanical, we always have one assumptions in all our theories that the material or the member must be casted homogenetically, or it should have the isotropic properties. हमारी जितनी भी थ्योरीज या उसमें ये एक कॉमन assumption सब में आती है कि मेरा जो मेंबर है वो होमोजीनियली कास्ट हो और उसकी सारी प्रॉपर्टीज जो हैं आइसोट्रॉपिक हो। आइसोट्रॉपिक प्रॉपर्टीज का मतलब मेरी जितने भी इलास्टिक कांस्टेंट हैं उसकी एल बी एच में बराबर होने चाहिए इन ऑल द 3 डायमेंशंस। होमोजेनिटी में मतलब है कि मेरा मेंबर पॉइंट ए टू एंड पॉइंट तक एक ही मटेरियल से कास्टेड है कि नहीं, वो चेक करने के लिए। अब हम यहाँ पे बात करते हैं, जब हम कास्टिंग करते हैं तो कास्टिंग में नॉर्मल कंक्रीट अगर मेरे पास आई है तो जो अगर लेमैन का हो तो अपनी वो वर्केबिलिटी इंक्रीज करने के लिए उसमें पानी डाल देते हैं। मेरी वाटर सीमेंट रेशो तो डिस्टर्ब हो जाती है, लेकिन पानी की वजह से वो क्या होता है कि वो एक जल्दी जल्दी से उनका मेंबर जो है वो भर जाता है, वाइब्रेशन करने की ज्यादा जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है। लेकिन एंड ऑफ द डे क्या हो रहा है कि जितना पानी मैं डाल रहा हूँ उतने मेरे वॉइड्स इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं, तो वो प्रॉब्लम वहां पे रहती है। इसके दूसरी साइड में अगर मैं वाटर सीमेंट रेशियो मेंटेन करता हूं तो आई नीड अ प्रॉपर कंपैक्शन और इट शुड बी प्रॉपरली वाइब्रेटेड until unless the concrete is of self compacting concrete। अगर वो चीज नहीं है मेरे को, अगर वहां पे मैंने वाटर सीमेंट रेशियो मेंटेन करके उसको स्ट्रेंथ उसकी अटेन करनी है तो मेरे को उसको प्रॉपरली वाइब्रेशन देनी ही पड़ेगी। वाइब्रेशन देते समय अब कहीं पे वाइब्रेटर नहीं लगा या कोई मेरा एक एग्रीगेट का पीस अटक गया, उसके नीचे मटेरियल नहीं गया, तो मेरी होमोजेनिटी नहीं मिलेगी मेरे को वहां पे। ये एक चीज। इसके अलावा और कंडीशन क्या हो सकती है कि मेरी फुटिंग या मेरा मेंबर हाईली डेंस, हाईली क्या है कि उसमें रीइंफोर्समेंट बार्स का नंबर बहुत ज्यादा है। मेरे सेक्शन में 15 से 20 mm के सरिये आ रहे हैं, तो उसमें भी मेरे पास दिक्कत है। हम वहां पे क्या करते हैं, वो स्ट्रक्चर इंजीनियर भेज तो देता है वहां से, लेकिन वहां पे दिक्कत क्या आती है कि स्टील को प्लेस करने के लिए रादर देन प्लेसिंग इनटू द लेयर्स यूजिंग स्पेसर बार्स, वो एक ही लेयर या 2 लेयर्स में खत्म करने की कोशिश करते हैं। ये समटाइम्स हैपेंस कि मेरे पास जो कर्टेलमेंट है नियर टू द कॉलम, जो मेरी डेवलपमेंट लेंथ के हिसाब से वहां उस एरिया में मेरा जो सरिया है वो बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है, जिसकी वजह से कंक्रीट अंदर जा ही नहीं पाती। उस केस में ये चीज मेरे काम आती है। To assess the quality of the concrete in relation to the standard requirements, then the detection of the presence and approximate extent of the crack, voids and the other imperfections in the concrete। यहाँ पे वही बात है, crack, voids and the other imperfections in the concrete I will be able to detect with the UPV। व्हाट विल हैपन, ये मीडिया चेंज करके, ये इसका सिंपल सी हम सबने एक एग्जांपल, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू टीच यू ऑल, यू मस्ट हैव स्टडीड आल्सो, कि हमारा जब मीडिया चेंज होता है तो हमारी जो वेवलेंथ है वो डिफरेंट हो जाती है, साउंड की वेलोसिटी चेंज हो जाती है, एयर से पानी में चेंज, पानी से किसी सॉलिड में चेंज, तो सॉलिड से एयर में जाएगी तो फिर से वहां पे मेरे पास वो फ्लॉ आ जाएगा। अब हमने प्लेसमेंट करी अपने प्रॉप की, हमने वहां से पल्स को रिलीज किया, डिटेक्ट हुआ, अब उसकी लोकेशन जानने के लिए हम उसको लेफ्ट राइट अप डाउन फ्रंट बैक करके क्या करते हैं, अप्रोक्सीमेट लोकेशन भी निकाल सकते हैं। So that again it is depending upon the person who is expert in performing this test will be there, then the factor affecting the test results. Then the first one says the smoothness of the contact surface under the test is required, then the influence of the path length on the pulse velocity, वो कितनी दूर तक है, temperature of the concrete 5 degree to 30 degree, ideal 30 degree Celsius to 60-degree reduction in the UPV up to 5%, and the below 5-degree increases up to the 7.5%. So these are the physical conditions we are requiring during the performance of our test. Then the moisture conditions of the concrete, pulse velocity is proportional to the moisture content also. Then the presence of the reinforcing steel, UPV reinforcement is 1.2 to 1.9 times than the normal concrete. Then the stress level in the concrete. अब मेरे को ये टेस्ट परफॉर्म करना है even with my entity this rebound hammer also. I forgot to say that I cannot use that test before 28 days. मेरे को ये भी ध्यान रखना है कि फ्रेशली लेड कंक्रीट के ऊपर एनडीटी परफॉर्म करने पर हो सकता है कि आपको रिजल्ट्स जो हैं ना आए, कम आए. For that sake, on the safer side, I used to be performing these tests after 4 to 6 months at least, but not in the peak temperature also, not in the month of June. If you performing in the month of June, you have to perform it in the early morning when the temperature is at required level. And if you are performing in the afternoon, as like for the mass concreting in the month of May, June, we will never say that the concreting must be done between 12 noon to 7 evening. Because heat of hydration is there, your outside temperature is high, so it will not good for the concrete health. You start casting after 7, go or complete your casting by the early morning, say 4 or 5. I have done one project 3-4 years back. The mass concreting was we did the concreting almost 2000 cubic meter in just 2 to 3 months. हमारी कास्टिंग शाम को 6 बजे शुरू होती थी, सुबह 6 बजे तक चलती, डे टाइम ऑल स्लीपिंग. So all these will affect your later ages. उस टाइम पे कास्टिंग भी हो जाएगी, क्या होगा, हाई टेम्परेचर की वजह से आपकी फाउंडेशन में या आपके जो पेडेस्टल्स हैं उनमें क्रैक्स रह जाएंगे, which will create a problem, and those must be detected with or can be detected with all these instruments, which will help you to restore the data or to check or get the exact valuation of the structure or the requirements to be taken care for the evaluations. So this is the ultrasonic pulse velocity meter. ये दो probes हैं, इसको हम perpendicularly opposite लगाते हैं. Sometimes if my column is there, then I will place on the opposite sides. When my the condition is again, अगर मैं इसको opposite place कर रहा हूं तो मेरे पास exact value आएगी. मेरे को perpendicular लगाना पड़ता है कई बार. ऑपोजिट आएगा तो एग्जैक्ट वैल्यू है, अगर मैं उसके दो राइट एंगल सरफेस पे लगाता हूं तो डिफरेंट है. रिजल्ट्स अकॉर्डिंगली मेरे को कंसिडर करने हैं. सेम साइड पे सेम सरफेस पे हो सकता है, बॉटम पे या फुटिंग के टॉप पे लगाते हो तो उसकी वैल्यूज डिफरेंट होंगी, कैलकुलेशंस डिफरेंट होंगी. I'm not saying we are not discussing how to calculate and what are all, but the conditions here we are discussing today. That can be discussed later on also. The one test can be, and every, as the sir says that it's a very required thing. We are going to start that on every last weekend of the month. We will have a special class in which we will discuss all these topics, and one by one whatever is the requirement in the calculation work or the field visit, all these tests can also be discussed in detail. So the technique measuring the, you see, as I was talking about, ये opposite आमने सामने, direct transmission, semi direct दिस साइड एंड दिस साइड, मेरे पास ये दो एक्सेसिबल, ये सरफेस ट्रांसमिशन, सेम सरफेस पे मैंने दोनों प्रोब लगाए। Then interpretation of the test results. The pulse velocity kilometer per second above 4.5, excellent. 3.5 to 4.5, good. 3.0 to 3.5, medium. Then below 3.0 to doubtful. These are the ranges, as we said that there is no exact value. That we have to keep in mind. Half cell penetration, we will talk about. To evaluate the potential of the concrete in promoting corrosion activity of the reinforcement by the half cell potential test, then to evaluate reinforcing steel in the concrete that has carbonated to the level of the embedded steel, then to compare the corrosion activity in outdoor reinforcement concretes of highly variable moisture and oxygen content or both at the embedded steel. ये सी शोर की कंडीशंस है मेरे पास। The factor affecting the test results are the moisture, temperature, concrete cover thickness, oxygen content of the reinforcement, and then the half cell. And the interpretation of the test results are again the values we have more positive than the minus 0.2 VCSC provides you the 90% of probability that no reinforcing steel is corroded at the time of the test. Then minus 2 to minus 0.35, minus 0.2 to 0.35 VCS says that the corrosion activity of the reinforcing steel. Then the more negative then this 0.35 is to give you the 90% probability that the reinforced steel is corroded. This is the rebar detection, which will gives us the reinforcement provided in the section. Fast and accurate rebar detection cover and the diameter size measurement. Rebar location is a central activity of anyone involved in the on-site testing of the reinforced structure. Locating rebars is a necessary when drilling, cutting. अब ये एक चीज है कि मेरे को एक तो reinforcement कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ने कितनी प्रोवाइड की उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से भी इसको चेक कर सकते हैं। मेरे को एग्जिस्टिंग स्ट्रक्चर में कितनी रीइंफोर्समेंट है और मेरे को अगर उसको स्ट्रेंथनिंग करनी है तो उस रीजन से भी चेक कर सकते हैं। तीसरी बात है मेरे को कोर कटिंग करनी है सो दैट माय रीइंफोर्समेंट शुड नॉट अफेक्ट माय कोर कटिंग लेंथ, उस रीजन से भी इसको परफॉर्म करते हैं। तो जो दो तीन पर्पस है मेरे पास, चार पर्पस की मैं पहले तो वेरीफाई करता हूं कि इट इज बीइंग कास्टेड एंड फैब्रिकेटेड और कंस्ट्रक्टेड एज पर दी गिवन डिजाइन ड्राइंग्स, वन थिंग। अनदर थिंग इज दैट कि वेदर दे आर बीइंग प्रॉपर्ली प्लेस्ड और नॉट, वो है भी वहां पे कि नहीं। The third one, I want to get my core cutting done on that particular column or a beam. My core cutting machine should not face that bar or it should not affect my cutting area. उस पर्पस के लिए भी हमको इसे करना हो। Now the next we will talk about the resistivity meter for measuring reinforcement corrosion in the concrete. Now the next coming out to be कि मैंने कास्टिंग कर ली, वहां पे मेरे पास मेंबर्स हैं, उसमें रीइंफोर्समेंट एग्जिस्टिंग है, उसको मुझे टाइम हो गया है, तो क्या कहीं उसमें कोरोजन तो नहीं लग गई। जो हमारे एक्सपोज्ड कॉलम होते हैं आउटसाइड, नॉर्मली हमारी आती है पियर्स में, जो ब्रिजेस के हैं या आउटसाइड हमारी जो पोर्टिको है या पोर्च है, उनके जो एक्सपोज्ड कॉलम्स होते हैं उस केस कि वहां पे मेरे पास मॉइस्चर कंटेंट भी अवेलेबल है और ऑक्सीजन लेवल भी अवेलेबल है, और हो सकता है कि उसमें ड्यूरिंग द कास्टिंग अगर कोई वॉइड रह गया या कोई क्रैक रह गया विद द टाइम इट इज बीइंग डेवलप्ड, एंड हाउ टू check that the resistivity meter for measuring the reinforcement corrosion in the concrete. The corrosion of the steel in concrete is an electrochemical process that generates a flow of current. Resistivity of the concrete influences the flow of this current. The lower the electric resistance, the more easily corrosion current flows through the concrete, and the greater is the probability of corrosion. Thus, the resistivity of concrete is good indication of probability of corrosion. Then the resistive meter can measure the electric resistance of the concrete component. The probable rate of corrosion with respect to value of resistivity of concrete is normally considered as given in the below table. So this is the table from where I can judge that how much corrosion has been taken care. ये problem हमारे पास वहां पे भी आती है in a building where we have this toilet block and the sunken slabs, जिनके नीचे हमेशा पानी से जो सीपेज कंडीशंस हमें विजिबल रहती हैं, सरफेस मॉइस्ट रहता है, उसके अंदर जो मेरी रीइंफोर्समेंट ने उसको जो टेंसाइल स्ट्रेंथ प्रोवाइड करनी है उसकी क्या कंडीशन, और क्या होता क्या है एंड ऑफ द डे after 3 4 5 years what will happen, the concrete portion below the reinforcement will get fall down. कि हमने जो घर की छतों में भी कईयों में देखा है कि जहां पे मेरी संकन स्लैब या ऊपर टॉयलेट है, नहीं तो अगर मेरी कोई पाइप जा रही लाइन लीक हो जाती है तो उसमें पानी का मॉइस्चर अगर रहता ही है तो वो क्या होता है कि सरफेस जो रीइंफोर्समेंट वो कोरोजन पकड़ लेती है, नीचे वाला पोर्शन मॉइस्चर की वजह से वो एक क्रैक डेवलप होता है, वो आपस में बॉन्ड जीरो होने की वजह से उसकी प्लास्टरिंग और कंक्रीट कवर दोनों इकट्ठे मिलके नीचे गिर जाते हैं और वो रीइंफोर्समेंट एक्सपोर्ट टू दी एटमोस्फियर हो जाती है. This we have seen so many places. Normally in the case of public buildings, bathroom toilets की जो sunken slabs हैं उनमें आप देख सकते हो ये प्रॉब्लम हमें दिखाई देती. This is the resistive meter. इसमें करंट फ्लो करके उसकी रीडिंग यहाँ पे चेक की जाती है as per this table. As like we have that less than 5 very high, 5 to 10 high, 10 to 20 moderate or low, then greater than 20 is the insignificant. This is the mechanism of resistivity. This can be very well explained by a electrical engineer, then a civil engineer. Now the core sampling and testing, and the end of the day, I am not going to conclude with only that this non-destructive testing we are doing it, but in at some certain stages we have to go for the core cutting and the core sampling and the destructive testing also, where we have to take care of physical sample of a cylindrical shape, normally 100 dia or 150 length. We used to take it to the lab and check it in the CTM compression testing machine so that the exact strength of that particular piece can be analyzed. But again we have the disturbed and undisturbed sample. That sample will be the disturbed sample. Whatever we are getting from the core cutting sample with the destructive testing. So So that will gives us the disturbed sample only, but we will have the fair or direct results from the CTM itself. The core samples can also be used for the following, where we get the strength and density determination, depth of the carbonation of concrete, chemical analysis, water and gas permeability, then the petrographic analysis, then the ashto-chloride permeability test. And with this, I would like to conclude for the day. Thank you all. You have any query or any discussion, you are welcome to ask, or we can share. Or not only that, if we have missed something and somebody wants to give his views or add on to what we have discussed